Jorad had rehearsed the moment 100 times in his mind. He had known Alena for just over a year, but in that short time she had become the steady rhythm in his life. She was brilliance and ambition, wrapped in grace, the kind of woman who walked into a room and carried both confidence and warmth with her. When Jorad asked her to marry him, his voice steady but his heart racing, she didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying all at once. Alena was ecstatic. She called her parents before they had even left the rooftop where he proposed. She texted her friends, sent photos of the ring, and by the end of the evening, her social media glowed with engagement posts and congratulations. Her phone buzzed endlessly with hearts and exclamation marks. She felt like she was floating. She couldn't wait to get married. From that day forward, the wedding became her universe. She wanted it to be perfect. The dress, the venue, the flowers, the music, the lighting, the menu. Jorad, wanting to see her happy, threw himself into the planning with equal determination. They toured venues on weekends, argued over guest lists at midnight, compared floral arrangements during lunch breaks, and scrolled through inspiration boards until their eyes ached. The more they planned, the more they wanted. A bigger venue, a live band instead of a DJ, imported flowers, custom invitations, a designer cake. Each choice felt like a reflection of their love, and they didn't want their love to look small. Money began to slip through their fingers. Savings accounts shrank. Credit cards stretched thin. They reassured each other that it would be worth it, that this was a once-in-a-lifetime day. But slowly, almost without noticing, they stopped taking care of themselves. Jorad slept less, working extra hours to cover the mounting costs. Alena skipped meals and workouts, consumed by fittings and vendor meetings. Their conversations, once filled with laughter and dreams, turned into spreadsheets and deadlines. They grew irritable, stressed, and exhausted. Some nights they fell asleep without even saying goodnight. Yet they kept telling themselves, it will all be perfect. And it was. The wedding day arrived in a blur of white fabric and camera flashes. The venue shimmered. The flowers were breathtaking. The music echoed beautifully under golden lights. Guests whispered about how stunning everything looked. Alena walked down the aisle radiant. Jorad looked at her as if she were the only person in the world. In that moment, beneath the arch of carefully arranged blossoms, nothing else mattered. But the day moved too quickly. Between greeting guests, posing for photos, and managing last-minute issues, they barely had time to sit. They smiled until their cheeks ached. They danced while their bodies screamed for rest. By the end of the night, when the last guest had left and the lights dimmed, they were too drained to fully feel the weight and wonder of what had just happened. The most beautiful day of their lives had passed like a performance. Later, sitting quietly together in their new home, surrounded by unopened gifts and unpaid balances, reality settled in. They were married, truly married. And yet what lingered most was not the flowers or the band or the designer cake. It was the quiet. It was the relief of simply being together without a checklist. Alena looked at Jorad and sighed softly. "We could have done this in a small garden," she said. "With just our families." Jorad nodded. "And it would have meant the same." They realized then that they had mistaken spectacle for significance. They had poured their time, money, and energy into a single day, and neglected the foundation of the lifetime that would follow. The wedding had been beautiful, but the marriage, that was what truly mattered. They promised each other that from that moment on, they would invest more in their journey than in appearances. They would prioritize rest, honesty, laughter, and shared dreams. They would build a life, not just moments that looked perfect from the outside. Because happiness was not in the illusion of a flawless celebration. It was in the quiet choice, every day, to choose each other. And that choice, far more than the wedding, was where their real story began. The morning after their realization, nothing looked different. The bills were still there. The thank you card still needed to be written. The photos still captured a flawless celebration. But something inside Jorad and Alena had shifted. They began slowly, intentionally. They created a budget not just to recover from the wedding, but to rebuild with purpose. Jorad worked diligently not just for promotions, but for stability. Alena refocused her ambition, balancing career goals with evenings reserved for dinner together, phones tucked away. They learned to say no to unnecessary expenses, to exhausting commitments, to keeping up appearances. Instead, they said yes to small rituals, Sunday morning walks, homemade dinners, late-night conversations about dreams that had nothing to do with centerpieces or guest lists. They saved carefully month after month, celebrating each milestone quietly. 12 years passed not in a blur, but in chapters. There were challenges, career changes, moments of doubt, times when money felt tight and patience thinner. But they had learned their lesson early: protect the union first. Eventually, the home they once dreamed about became real. Not extravagant, but warm and filled with laughter. Bigger than their first apartment, with space for growth, space for children. And the children came. Tiny footsteps echoed through the hallways, toys scattered across floors. Sleepless nights returned, but this time, they were wrapped in joy, not stress. Jorad would rock a baby in his arms while Alena smiled from across the room, both remembering how different this exhaustion felt from the one they'd carried on their wedding day. They didn't chase perfection anymore. They chased presence. They continued to save, to plan wisely, to think long-term. And as their stability grew, so did their generosity. They helped support their aging parents, sending money when needed, flying them over for visits, honoring traditions, keeping culture alive in their home. Their children grew up hearing stories of desert markets and childhood memories beneath the African sun. Family wasn't just an obligation, it was a blessing. 12 years after the grand wedding, Jorad and Alena often sat together in their backyard while their children played. No photographers, no curated posts, no performance, just life. They would sometimes laugh about the wedding, the imported flowers, the elaborate cake, the stress over napkin colors. It had been beautiful, yes, but it had also been a lesson. True happiness wasn't in spectacle. It was in shared glances across a messy kitchen, in holding hands during uncertain seasons, in budgeting together, in forgiving quickly, in staying up late to talk, in teaching their children kindness, in honoring their parents. The precious moments of their union, ordinary, imperfect, and deeply real, were what built their happiness. The wedding had lasted one day. Their marriage, nurtured patiently and intentionally, had lasted 12 years and counting. And this time, they were truly enjoying it.